Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Pemko number 412 CRL. This is an automatic door bottom with a sponge EPDM rubber insert in a clear anodized aluminum finish. This is considered a residential or entry level caliber sort of item. Very typical and appropriate for residential applications, meaning the volume of use is low to moderate, is where you're going to see a 412 model. Very nice and attractive. It is handed as a result of the asymmetrical sort of shape to the aluminum housing that's over here. So this unit here is specifically shown as a right hand. So in your perspective, the hinges are here and the door must swing in this way. Okay. You have to select the handing when you are adding to cart. There is a link below this video to both a document that shows the handing chart for this, and there's also one that appears in the extended description below this video as well. So the 412 series is going to be representative of this item with its asymmetrical cover aluminum. It is going to have the insert material that's here. The drop bar will drop down to seal against the sill, and making this an elegant piece of hardware, and I'll explain why I feel it's elegant in a bit, and is the dimensional properties as shown. It has an overall height, which is not really given, but an overall of about 2 3/16. Okay, has an overall thickness of the material at about 9/16 of an inch. Available in several different lengths, everywhere from 2 foot probably to 4 foot, at least 4 foot wide, and available generally in about 6-inch increments, sometimes 2-inch increments, 2'6", 2'8", things like that. And is available in the C finish for clear anodized aluminum, as you can see. It's also available in the B finish, which would be solid brass, or architectural bronze it's called, onto which you can then do mill finish or satin brass finish or polished brass finish or even an oil rubbed bronze finish. You can do a D finish, which is dark bronze anodized over aluminum, a G finish, which is a gold anodized aluminum, and then you can also do an S finish, which would be like a satin nickel type finish. Okay, there is below this video a link to the installation instructions, which we are going to go over in a moment. The 412 model is going to be appropriate for a maximum drop of 3/4 inch. It's common for an item like this. So an automatic door bottom, as I had mentioned earlier, is an elegant piece of hardware because it will allow you to seal the bottom of a door, and it will allow you to seal the bottom of a door against, as indicated on the just on the packaging alone, it states to keep out draft, dust, fumes, moisture, insects, light, and sound. It's an excellent way to do all of that, to really help suppress the intrusion of those items into the living space. Some people will also use these just to help attenuate sound if you are in a condo building and you want to limit how much you're really hearing from the hall side. There are times when automatic door bottoms are used to help with that issue. Now, speaking specifically of sound, Pemko has a line of items that are specifically acoustic rated and used on sound transmission control openings. Now, the 412 is certainly acoustically rated to help attenuate sound, but they have others that are made for just doing that. The 412 is going to be an item that you'll use in a residential application where low to moderate volume and then low to moderate cost is what you're looking for as well. Okay, the 3/4 inch gap is what they can seal, so the drop is going to be just marginally heavy on that. Now, the amount of space that it can seal, maximum 3/4 inch, can be tailored from basically 0 up to 3/4 inch. And there's a very elegant way by which an automatic door bottom goes about doing that. There are always two ends to an automatic door bottom. There's an end that is called the plunger end, or it's got a bolt sticking out of it. Then the opposite end, which will not have a bolt. Well, in almost all instances, will not have a bolt sticking out of it. There's a void here. So what happens in an application with an automatic door bottom, how they work, is the side with the bolt or the plunger is always the hinge side of the door, and the one without is always the lock side of the door. Automatic door bottoms, and these are the rules by which you approach automatic door bottoms. Almost always, automatic door bottoms are mounted on the push side of the door, which would be generally the exterior side of a door, which makes sense because you would want that barrier to be on the outside of the door rather than on the inside of the door. You don't want those previously mentioned, contaminants to get all the way under your door before they're stopped. So you're going to see an automatic door bottom like the 412 mounted on the exterior side or the push side or the key side of the door. The plunger side is the hinge side of the door, so you have to mount this to the bottom of the door on the push side so that basically you're going to be able to flush the bottom of the case off with about the bottom of the door, or you're going to tailor it knowing that you've got a maximum gap of 3/4 inch that can be accomplished. And here's what's going to happen. When this is mounted to the door, the plunger is depressed when you close the door. When the plunger is depressed, it will compress a series of flat springs that are within the mechanism. So if my finger were to represent the closing of the door, so just imagine this item is open, and as the door comes to close, this will make contact with the frame. When it makes contact with the frame, it has nowhere to go but in. When it goes in, it will drop the seal. So my finger will represent that action. You can see how it drops down, and it does so unevenly, and that's normal. If my thumb were to represent it encountering the sill, my thumb is going to limit the unit, and then it will drop down evenly, or at least to account for the sill, whatever pitch it may have, within reason. The problem is if you had a maximum 3/4 inch gap over here, but then your sill was angled away from the hinge side, you're not going to be able to cover that because you won't be able to get that to tip down adequately far enough. So you could have a void, but your sill has to be outrageously out of level for there really to be an issue, and that's generally never an issue. So that's how these work. They're elegant in that regard because you're only making contact with the floor when the unit is closed. When the door is closed, I should say. Therefore, you can accommodate a door that has a rug on the inside of it that the unit can slide over. And on top of, so you have a door, you've got a finished floor, you've got a rug. The door can go over the rug, slide over the rug, and this can travel along with it because the seal is tucked up nicely into the housing, and a door sweep, if you had one installed, would drag over that surface. You might have a shoe that's been left on the inside of the door. Well, that's going to tear up your door sweep. It just will. Automatic door bottoms are elegant in that fashion that they can account for a sill that's got some marginal out of level characteristics to it. It can account for something left on the pull side of the door, like a rug or a shoe. The ability of them to last very long is very high because there's not a lot of friction involved. You're not sliding the seal down against anything. You're just pushing down on the sill, or on the threshold, really, is what it is. That makes these very elegant. Now, the only thing about the sound we had mentioned earlier, if in 25 years I've heard this a total of 3 times after selling thousands of these, it is this. You can hear that clanking. And no, a door is not going to open that quickly, but the fact of the matter is the economy models make no attempt to deaden the sound of that drop bar hitting the top of the housing. So 3 times people have said, boy, that makes a clanking sound. That's not going to work, and completely ignoring all of the advantages of an automatic door bottom when it's used. I mention it only because it's been mentioned to me. I don't consider it a major drawback. I consider it something to explain, something to be known and understood about the design of the item. Pemko has other automatic door bottoms that feature a rubber sort of deadening aspect to them, especially on their STC models that they'll be able to supply you with, such as their PDB 4131 model that will be specifically rated for a superior acoustical performance in both the obviously the working and of course the closing cycle of it as well. Shouldn't be a big deal, but I mention it for that regard only. Now, installation of this is going to be it's actually quite simple. This is only surface mounted, and automatic door bottoms can be surface mounted, semi-mortise, and then mortised into the door. This is obviously a surface mount. If this were to be a rectangle on the housing, you could mortise the bottom of the door so that you'd make the housing flush with the face of the door, giving it a flush sort of installation. You could then choose a model that would require you to route a channel in the bottom of the door, put the unit in there so that it's completely concealed. The size that you order is not only dependent on your door width, but it's really more so dependent on your frame condition and also how you're going to mount the unit. Now, in a full surface mount, understanding that you're going to mount it on the push side of the door only, the net size that you want is not really related to the door size as much as it's directly related to when you stand on the push side of the door and you've got the door closed, you measure the distance between the stops, deduct 1/8 of an inch, and that's the net size that you want to order. Okay, so in a scenario where you had a 3-foot door in a home, the projection of the stops was 1/2 inch, you would have well, is it 36-inch actual door width? Let's assume that it is. Let's say that your inside frame dimension is 36 1/4, less 1/2 inch, less 1/2 inch, that's 35 1/4, less 1/8 for the margin will give you a 35 1/8 inch net size. How you get that is you order the next longest piece or pieces and simply indicate in the comment field the net length that you want. This client happened to order 32 inch. I highly doubt that 32 inch is going to be what they need for this door. They're going to end up having to trim this, and trimming is possible up to 2 inch on models. However, when they're less than 36 inch, the rule of thumb generally is that they are not trimmable. You will be able to trim this model every bit of 2 inches because you can see underneath here there's no inner mechanism that you're going to be destroying if you are going to take an 7/8 of an inch off of this. The screw that's holding the spring is here, okay? And other than the hole for the screw itself that will hold it to the door, between here and here you're completely open with what you can end up trimming off. So that wouldn't be really a problem. Except in the instance that you then have to, of course, trim it yourself. The factory's making these out of long extrusions, long pieces. Why not just let them make it the net size that you need? Well, you might say, I don't really know the size I'm going to need because I'm not at the job, but I know the door is X. Okay, I get that. Or the job site's 200 miles away and, I can't get there to measure it naturally. Okay, that's very well understood. But just know, in any case, in all cases where you can determine the net size that you're going to need, let us make it for you to that size. You aren't going to run the risk of mistakes, damaging it, installing it wrong, things of that nature. Now, it will always have these units. They will feature the insert material that will ship long. They always will. You're going to trim that after you get final installation done. Now, speaking of installation, installing these is very easy. The plunger bolt is going to come to you, and it's going to have a sticker generally wrapped on it that says, don't cut this side. Don't cut this side. You only cut the lock side. When you get this unit, take the plunger and turn it clockwise. Because it's threaded, you're going to reduce its projection from the housing. Get a screwdriver and turn that in so it's basically flush. The amount of projection is directly related to the amount of drop. I reduced that projection and I'm not dropping very much. When I had it fully turned out earlier, I was dropping it significantly more. But during the process of installation, you don't want to really have any action on the dropping. All you want to do is get it placed on the door. So place it between the stops at the bottom of the door at the proper height to account for whatever undercut you're working with. Mark your holes. Speaking of the holes, screws are included. You'll get enough of these to go through the housing onto the door. Pre-drill your holes. Then, wherever the plunger makes contact with the frame, you're going to get another screw that will be a very small, flat, undercut head screw that you'll drill and countersink, pre-drill and then countersink so that this is flush, so that every time the plunger makes contact with the frame, it's actually hitting the screw head. You don't want that plunger to create a divot in your frame over time. Let the screw head take all the contact. To finish off the rest of the package, you'll get an end plate, is what you're going to get for your installation. A couple of nails to hold it on. Now the end plate works only on the lock side of the door. After you get it installed, you'll trim this. You'll take this plate and you'll mount it so that it's on the face of the door, so that you finish off the look just like this. So that gives you a finished look to the door. Okay. On the 412 series, you do not get a end plate for the plunger. That's just how these are. Economy grade units don't feature that. You've got it positioned, holes pre-drilled, you've got it mounted. Now, with the plunger primarily flush with the unit, you can close the door and then watch how that drops. You can then turn it clockwise to reduce the drop, or counterclockwise to draw that plunger out so that it needs to be depressed further to accomplish a greater drop. Stop when you are making contact, just contact, across the entire sill. You don't need a lot of pressure. It will work against you to have undue pressure on the plunger pushing the drop bar down, because as soon as the door starts to open, you want this to immediately start to project out so that you're reducing the tension on the springs so that you're drawing this bar up. I've had people install these where they really ran the bolt out far counterclockwise, having it stick out a lot. And then when they went to open the door, this drop bar is literally dragging across the floor because it's not tucked back up into its housing. Just contact is all you need. You want to make sure that you have a piece of paper underneath there and you can pull it out, but not in such a way that the drop bar is being compromised at all. Okay, that's how I go about doing it. Then your installation is complete. It's that simple. You can expect years, decades of faithful performance out of an automatic door bottom, again, because you don't have the friction like of a door sweep. You just have the contact pushing down onto the top of the sill. Now, there are different models available in automatic door bottoms from Pemko. Ones that are symmetrical bodied. Again, the three different mount types: surface, semi-mortise, and then mortised. Different qualities of material, different inserts. For the 412, you're going to be able to do a silicone insert. This is what they call sponge EPDM, just sponge type rubber. You can do also what they call a Pemko preen, which is a synthetic rubber as well. So you've got three insert types. What's the difference between all of them? Well, the silicone, in my experience, is going to be a bit softer, and that will allow you to give less resistance to the automatic door bottom when it's pushing down. In terms of its acoustical properties or its weather stripping properties, I don't see really any difference between a silicone and a sponge EPDM, except that the silicone is generally more expensive. I don't know that that translates into higher performance, however, since they are rated for the same classifications. The Pemko preen is the same sort of scenario as well. It's a thin-walled sort of material that is generally hollow, and you'll see that installed in areas where I see it installed in areas in hotels, actually. And I'm not exactly sure why some people will opt for that, but it's a synthetic rubber material. I personally like the sponge EPDM because it's sponge-like, meaning that there's going to be lots of little holes that are inside that sponge, and that it's basically a hollow tube that's here that will significantly help attenuate sound transmission better, because hollow tubes and airspace is basically within the material. Okay. Some people like silicone because they feel it's longer lasting and more durable, and I believe it to be more abrasion resistant. I don't know how well that translates to a automatic door bottom, because you don't have a lot of movement, a lot of friction movement. Silicone would certainly be considered higher quality in terms of a insert material. I'd probably opt for that if I wanted to most abrasion-resistant material. Okay. Now, regarding automatic door bottoms, Pemko can help you again with light-duty all the way up to heavy-duty material for specialty applications. They can do security-style bars, which are basically bars that have an aluminum drop so that you can't stick anything underneath them to be able to perhaps tamper with the lock on the inside. There is available separately the K412PA. The mounting package alone can be purchased. Why would you need that? Well, you might have had door bottoms removed for painting and you lost some of the parts, so that you can rebuild your 412 by buying only the screw package itself. And again, I feel automatic door bottoms are elegant because they account for sill level conditions that aren't level, and then objects left on the inside of the door. They're effective, they're long lasting, with their only one downside, that they do make an audible sound when the door is opened and the drop bar is snapping back up into the housing. Finally, there's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Pemko products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. That full product catalog, you can do a find function on your keyboard for the 412, and eventually you'll get to that area or that subsection of the full catalog where they discuss automatic door bottoms. If you have any questions on the Pemko number 412CRL automatic door bottom or any other Pemko product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.